I'm going to be joined by the director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks for having me, Kev. I feel very underdressed, not wearing a tie.
Yeah, come on, we've got a sartorial code here, you know. Next time. We might be with dinner suits next time, bow ties, the lot, yeah. I had to wear it for this lunch, so I thought I'd keep it on. Why not? Now, as I say, you're just the man for this first 60 minutes because nearly all the stories concern the migrant crisis, and that's not just because you're here. This seems to be day in, day out. We are confronted with the escalating insanity of this mad migrant crisis. So first up, let's talk about, let's give credit to ITV News here. They're the first media outlet to board a deportation plane. This was a plane returning 47, they're called FNOs, foreign national offenders. These are immigrants who have committed serious crimes, and we're talking about murderers, rapists, violent criminals, gun criminals, gangsters, serious, dangerous criminals. ITV got onto this plane. 47 of these people were being flown back to Romania, their home country. To get them to the airport, Robert, it took each one of them, not only to get them to the airport, but also on the plane, had to have 3 Home Office guards, security people with them. So altogether, apparently, it took 100 staff to get all of them to the airport. And then each one of these 47 had 3 escorts, security escorts from the Home Office with them on this plane. So the cost is astronomical. But it gets worse. On the plane, each one of these, fiends, monsters, was handed a cash card, £2,000 each, for them to cash when they got to Romania, present from us, from British taxpayers. This is to encourage them to go back. So in order to get them to agree to be deported, we gave them £2,000 each. Shabana Mahmood later said, well, you know, it's not a good look out of context. It's not a good look at all, Shabana, never mind out of context. She says this is actually cheaper than keeping them in prison or letting them stick around to fight their cases to stay. My contention would be just deport them and don't give them £2,000. This is absolutely ludicrous. It's deranged. Before we get your comments on this, Robert, let's have a look at some of ITV News' excellent report. Well, first of all, let's have a look at these people being deported on the plane. Let's have a look.
Capture compliant migrants being given bank cards preloaded with money, up to £2,000 each, to encourage and aid their resettlement in Romania.
Just to remind you, those people receiving your money, £2,000 each, are murderers, are rapists, are drug dealers, are gun criminals. Really, really serious criminals. £2,000 each. Later, in fairness, Shabana Mahmood, the new tough-talking, tough as nails, hard-talking, hard as nails, Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, she gave an interview in which she said, out of context, this is not a good look, as I just said. Never mind out of context, Shabs. Let's have a look at what the Home Secretary had to say.
Well, look, I think out of context, obviously, it's not great. It doesn't look good. But the reality is that a voluntary removal is actually cheaper for the British taxpayer. So it has long been the case, certainly since 2006, that we do offer financial packages as an incentive to people to drop their claims, to drop the attempts that they will make to try and stay within our country and to board a flight and to leave.
Well, you know, if that's her case, fair enough. But every person in this country, well, you and me definitely, but I would say that every British citizen, knowing that their tax money is being spent on paying murderers and rapists £2,000 to leave the country, will say, never mind it being a good look a bad look out of context. It's a bad look totally. And if we're a nation that can't deport murderers and rapists, dangerous criminals, without giving them money, what kind of a nation are we?
This is honestly an absolutely farcical story, and I'm actually surprised in that footage we weren't seeing them in a first-class lounge with their feet up and sort of air hostesses bringing them champagne. It's a ridiculous situation, and the scheme under which this is done, which is the voluntary return scheme, was something that was sort of introduced in the early part of the century, and I think it was really some kind of really clever Whitehall Mandarin looking at the current legal situation, realising that actually there's so many opportunities for foreign national offenders to challenge the actual deportation that they just came up with this solution of let's just throw taxpayers' money at it. And unfortunately, that seems to be the solution that a lot of civil servants have to a lot of problems. But this really is a really, really horrid state of affairs. You know, I'm very glad these individuals have actually been removed because, you know, frankly, we've got 20,000 roughly foreign national offenders who should be deported, who are eligible for deportation but are still sort of roaming the streets next to communities, living next to schools, living next to friends and families and whatever. But this is not the way to go about it. If you really are struggling to remove an individual because of their ability to appeal and to challenge, then you have to change the law and you have to remove that ability for them to actually put up a fight. And we need to start entering a position where if a foreign national is given any kind of sentence, then we have arrangements, reciprocal arrangements with their country of origin where they serve their prison sentence in that country's prisons. They don't burden and blight our prisons and inflict £50,000 a year cost on the British taxpayer. They don't clog up spaces and lead to prison overcrowding, and they are just gone and got rid of and then never to return.
And let's think about the cost of this one flight. Don't forget, I assume these flights are leaving fairly regularly, one would hope. I mean, Labour likes to boast that they regularly send these voluntary deportees back to their home countries. What do they call it? They've got a name for it, haven't they? The facilitated return scheme. It's a euphemism if ever I heard one. Well, this one flight, some of these people were real troublemakers, and they needed as many as a dozen of these Home Office security escorts for one migrant. So, as I said earlier, it's estimated that to get these 47 deportees to the airport required 100 staff. Once they get onto the plane, each one of them has to have 3 Home Office escorts. Now, apart from giving them 2,000 quid, don't forget we're paying their tickets. Now, I don't know how much it costs to go to Romania, what, £500, something like that. So think about that. 47 deportees, £500 a ticket, each one of them 3 escorts, £500 a ticket. Then we give each one of these 47 crooks, criminals, £2,000. Then all the escorts have to fly back to Britain, another fight. You know, the cost is just astronomical.
There needs to be so much more sort of productivity injected into how we actually deliver across all elements of our border enforcement, but in particular when it comes to actually enforce returns and the removals of individuals. I think that this is a large problem that we do have, not just when it comes to foreign nationals, but offenders, but to illegal migrants as well, in that it's just so cumbersome, and the way in which we approach this issue, you know, 3 people to a man, is so unproductive and really sort of sets us back actually, and puts us in a position where we're almost thinking, you know, it's not worth deporting because we'll have to pay all these costs and pay all these associated things. I think it's a really, really bad state of affairs. I mean, and actually, frankly, if you think about it, these people are going through this scheme where, whilst they're serving some of their sentence, they've volunteered to be removed under this scheme. You wouldn't think that they're sort of as much of a flight risk as someone that's sort of going kicking and screaming as well, because they put their hand up and been told, you know, you'll get £2,000 to reintegrate you into Romania when you get back. And then the bigger picture, of course, is what is our immigration system actually doing to stop people like this coming in the first place? You know, there's no guarantee that actually people with criminal records aren't already coming in. People that are ne'er-do-wells and offer very little aren't being given visas left, right and centre. And I think that's another thing that we need to consider here. You know, hundreds of thousands of people come in each year without providing a criminal record certificate. We don't know their backgrounds. They could very well also have similar sort of histories as these individuals.
And don't you think, I mean, I think this, I'm sure you think this, I'm sure everybody across the country is saying, well, what kind of a nation are we? I mean, you know, why haven't we got the backbone to tell murderers and rapists, we're kicking you out of the country, bye-bye? Why have we got to give them £2,000 to go? Why can't we just say, we don't want you here, you're out of here?
It's pathetic, and it really does make us...
It is pathetic, that is the word.
It makes us an absolute laughingstock. But again, I think what it is it's policymakers trying to be as clever as possible and play within the rules, however restrictive they are, the human rights rules and the, you know, all those appeals that are made to the right to family life, and the pushback that a lot of foreign national offenders do actually put up whilst we're trying to remove them. And I think someone's just come up with an idea, well, why don't we just effectively bribe them to leave the country? You know, no matter what crime they've committed, we're effectively almost rewarding, sort of to an extent, their criminality. This is a ridiculous situation. I also think that this idea that we've got some kind of duty to ensure that they're sort of able to reintegrate themselves back into their country of origin society, I'm sorry, it's not our problem. We didn't sort of rear these monsters. These aren't people that are sort of the result of our socialisation processes. These are people that have come from another country and have been raised by that society, and they've committed the crimes, and it's therefore really not our problem as soon as they're on a plane and sent back to that country.
It's just a disgrace. Listen, folks, let me know what you think about this. I mean, I knew Labour liked to boast about, oh, we're deporting thousands of migrants under the voluntary scheme. You know, they keep quiet about the fact that, you know, they often give them more than 2,000, 3,000, don't they? And I'd always assumed that they're talking about, you know, migrants, normal migrants who haven't committed crimes. You know, how about you go back to wherever you're from, here's $3,000. A bit like we did with about the 4 people we got to Rwanda. You know, I'd always assumed that these were innocent people who we'd persuaded or bribed, if you like, with cash to go home. But now we learn that murderers and rapists. It's just...
It is ridiculous. I mean, I do think there is a place when it comes to removing illegal migrants to sort of maybe just giving them a little bump, just because, and it's called voluntary returns, that process it is actually cheaper than us having to put them in manacles and ship them off to their country of origin in a quite assertive manner. And if we can kind of make people realise through the creation of a hostile environment, if they're here illegally, that you will be removed and we'll give you a bit of money if you'd go, I think that will speed up the process.
Well, one last point about this, and it's worth mentioning, is what Shabana Mahmood means when she says, this, I know this looks bad. She said, what did she say? It's not great. It doesn't look good out of context. Understatement of the century. What she means is it's more expensive to keep them in prison. But what she also means, and she said this in her extended interview, is that these people will stick around and fight their case to stay. So what we're talking about is murderers and rapists come out of jail, and they stick around and try and fight a case to stay. We should have a system where, no, you're a murderer, you're a rapist, you're a paedophile, you don't stay, you go. We've got to show some backbone. We can't carry on like this.
We're stuck in this obsession with sort of due process has to be delivered to every single person. And this is why I think the idea of a British Bill of Rights is actually a correct one, because it's something where, you know, foreign nationals who have come to this country and committed crimes don't have the same access to proper appeals and to legal process that the Brit that was born in this country does have. I think we need to have a sort of separation, that the ability of the legal instruments that someone can access is contingent on their nationality and their citizenship, not just because they've stepped foot on British soil.
Well, give us a ring, folks, and let me know what you think about this. As Robert just came up with exactly the right word, it's pathetic that we haven't got the strength as a nation to just kick rapists, murderers, dangerous criminals out. Instead, we have to bribe them with 2,000 quid. That is pathetic, but it is also, I would suggest, outrageous. It's infuriating, don't you think?